I thought it could be really interesting to talk about the balance between cure and care in pastoral situations. So I often find myself in a position where I'm having to defend one or the other position. Depending where I am, I almost change camp. So it seems to me that some people only think that cure is the response to every pastoral need, whether it be sickness, cancer, a broken leg, anything. They're looking for cure for miracles, deliverance, etc., etc. And yet others, it appears to me, only look for cure. You know, they will walk with you in the journey, and you know, love is important. We can always care, but we can't always cure. I think I might have got my words wrong there. But, you know, so there's this position of cure or care. And have you experienced that?
Yeah, I think most people want simple answers.
Yes.
And immediately you're starting to talk about cure and care. You've got a double answer.
Yes.
And most people just want a single answer.
Yes.
And they want short answers. I'll pray for you once, and I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pray for you for healing right now,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna leave. And if it doesn't work, you need to work on your faith issues, because I got to keep on moving on somewhere else. I think you got these different layers of things that are getting in the way
Yes.
of what cure and care actually means. These
Yes.
other hidden shadow things.
Yeah.
I mean, I have pretty strong opinions on this,
Yes.
Phil, so I might be the wet blanket in this discussion, but I guess, you know, from my personal experience, having had a daughter who died of cancer and a son who's extremely disabled, I guess I fit very much into the care camp, and I guess that's just reality. You know, I would like to think that cure was a possibility, but I think when you look at reality, you know, when I walk through the oncology ward at Starship Hospital, or when I walk through Oakland Special School, to me there is only one option, and that's care.
Yeah.
Can God heal? Can there be cure? Yeah, but doesn't seem to be reality to me. So I guess I've always sort of fallen back into the camp of you know, suffering's a good thing, and it's about sanctification, and it's about eternity and those sorts of things. So you might be able to help me.
So if that sort of if reality and lived experience, you know, incredibly precious as it is one thing behind default position to care, almost. Maybe default position is too strong a word. What else could be behind
well, I
care?
probably suggest that it's a biblical position behind it as well.
Yeah.
You know, when I read the New Testament,
Yes.
you know, it's not all about power and glory and authority.
Yeah.
You know, there's an awful lot about suffering.
Yeah.
There's also an awful lot about when I'm weak, you know, then I'm strong, then he is strong. You know, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yes.
So I would like to argue that there is a little bit of a biblical framework behind some of my care thinking.
Yes.
But is it a total explanation, the biblical thing that you're bringing up?
Well, yeah, you could help me with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you guys know my son died in his sleep, and he was 2 years old. And after I finally went back to work, back to the church, one church leader in the city here came up to me and, in sobbing, weeping, said, "Didn't you pray for him?" And I go, "What do you mean? When you found him in his bed, didn't you pray for him and just ask God to bring him back to life right then and there?" And I looked at this person. I said, "How can you ask me that?" And I got kind of angry, graciously walked away. And as I thought about that, I think part of what's going on here is it's very hard to do the one another passages. It's very hard to walk with someone and number one, speak rightly about God in the midst of pain and loss, and about who he is, not try and jump to what you want to make him be in this situation right now, because that takes my pain away. But then to walk with someone else in their pain, in their sorrow, to hurt with one another, to suffer with one another, that's hard work. It means time. It means I've got to really deal with my own fear issues and who I think God is and is not. But you know, the whole, you know, we're jars of clay, and through the broken bits you see God's glory. That it's in the learning to do both. So when someone asks me to pray for them for a physical healing and emotional healing, I pray, and I pray for healing, absolutely, and I trust that God will heal, and I pray with that kind of expectancy. But at the same time, I don't then just walk away. Now it's almost like if I'm going to pray for you for healing, I'm making a commitment now to walk with you in your pain, and I don't think you can separate the two. And so you look for both. You look for, how do I pray for curing, but how do I learn to care in the midst of this? And often I don't know what I'm doing. So now it's, how can I pray for you? What can, and I don't think we're supposed to have the answers. Quick prayers for cures, I think, are an assumption that I have to know your answer for your situation. Caring for me says, I don't have to know the answers. I'm going to figure it out with you, and we'll just kind of see what happens.
So would you see that as an outworking of Laurie's question to Charles, if I've heard her right, that is that more of a complete biblical picture?
Everyone wants to say, yes, I've got the complete biblical picture. For me, that's how I put the two tensions together. I don't think it's one or the other, ever. So the tension is both. Trust God for healing. He is greater than this stuff. He does do these miracles. Miracles do happen. And at the same time, he does stuff in ways that I don't understand. So I want to trust him.
I found Tom Smale's writing very helpful. Tom Smale was coming from a charismatic perspective. But when he's talking about Romans 8 and he's talking about the groanings that we experience, he talked, if you just go altogether on the miracle side, you finish up with cruel triumphalism. Because it doesn't work out like that. And perhaps, one or others of you have experienced comments of others which are a cruel triumphalism.
Phil, you're on the staff at St. Paul's, and I've heard you talk about this, that often, after every service there is a ministry time. That's an important part of what the church does. So how do you guys get that balance of perhaps, a healthy theology in this area?
I guess we try to. I don't know if I can speak on behalf of others. I guess my position is to try to hold both positions in tension. I like that word, tension. So yes, to pray for healing, to pray for miracles, and we certainly have a number of recent testimonies of miraculous healings that are even medically shown. So to move away from that possibility, I think, would be tragic. But we also, for example, hold pastoral care evenings recently on cancer and mental health, where we say and acknowledge people's reality, to come back to that word, and so try to live in both worlds. It's a concern, though, for me, as I mentioned at the beginning, that it seems that sometimes we just sway too far to one position.
So how do we avoid that?
I think we don't treat them like events. I think we swing because we treat both those things like an event. So I want to care for you now, and then I'm done. I want to pray for curing now, and then I'm done. And it's when you treat them as an event, you swing one with the other, where you were saying live into. I think it's got to be a lifestyle. If you're constantly caring for one another, as a community, one another, constantly caring, as you're constantly praying for one another without ceasing, it brings the balance. And it makes you unable to swing one way or the other if it's a way of life together. So I've prayed for people and have had medical proof that they were healed. I prayed for other people and nothing apparently has seemed to happen. Yet, during that time, we grew together. The church saw a reflection of the kingdom in that. We learned what it means to love and trust God in the midst of pain. That's another kind of miracle. So I think if we don't treat it like an event, and this is how we live as God's people, for me, it keeps me from swinging one side or the other. It keeps the tension alive.
Two railway tracks going together. Inseparable.
How could that be, spread that message to keep two railway tracks going together, do you think?
I have a friend who keeps saying how Christians are the most dishonest people on the planet because we never tell the full story. We only tell the good stuff. And I think if we would allow space in our worship gatherings, in our small groups, to talk about, I'm hurting here, and I haven't found a release. I need you to hurt with me during this time. That right there, it's caught. You pick it up. And this is how we are. I think that would be helpful.
And I think too, pastoral leaders being proactive in developing a strong theology of suffering. And I think so. We, when was the last time we taught these issues.
Yeah.
Again, with a full confidence in God and the power of the gospel and the kingdom, but also at the same time that, you know, I think of the fact that we live in a world that's not as God intended it to be. And I think we need to spend more time talking with people about these issues.
And even the other side, when someone is cured, it's not just a yay and that opens up a new song.
Yeah.
It's like we celebrate when someone's cured. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate and let's thank God. And then in the thinking of God, let's acknowledge not everyone gets cured.
Yeah.
Which God's showing us this side of Him now, and keep the tension alive.
Yeah. Any final things you'd like to contribute to the pot? Yeah, well, I trust that we can, you know, find a way to keep both going without losing sight of either. I think it would be really important.
Yeah. Good, thanks.